Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kyle Patrick de Guzman, and I will be your host and moderator for this event. On behalf of the Philippine Association for Communication and Media Research Incorporated, or PACMRI, welcome to our 2025 Masterclass webinar series. Our fourth masterclass is entitled Media and Mindfulness Underscoring Ethics and Centering Mental Well-Being in a Polarized Media Landscape. This masterclass explores how media practitioners and scholars can navigate polarization with integrity and care, how media can be both responsible and restorative. But before we proceed, we would like to acknowledge our institutional members who joined us for this masterclass. Thank you for taking out the time of your day to be with us. At this point, to formally open today's masterclass, we are honored to hear from the president of PACMRI, Dr. Chen San Pascual.
Good afternoon, magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Welcome to the fourth session of this year's PACMRI Masterclass Series. PACMRI, or the Philippine Association for Communication and Media Research Incorporated, is a University of the Philippines-based non-stock organization that aims to advance knowledge in communication and media phenomena involving the Filipinos and the Philippines. Founded in 2019 by the University of the Philippines Department of Communication Research, PACMRI envisions a knowledge-based society that values, uses, and innovates communication and media research. PACMRI endeavors to promote the systematic study of developments, changes, and challenges in Philippine communication and media to contribute to enhancing the competencies of local communication and media researchers in conducting and disseminating scholarly works, and to facilitate the engagement of communication and media research practitioners and institutions in Philippine society. The PACMRI Masterclass Series, one of our flagship projects, aims to expound on the various philosophical, contextual, and practical concerns that inform and elevate the studies that we conduct. We at PACMRI hope that the series results in a vibrant and rigorous communication and media research culture in our country. In this afternoon's masterclass session, our colleagues from the Visayas region will share their insights on how mindfulness and ethics would allow us to better equip ourselves as we navigate our highly polarized media terrain. So please invite your peers to join us. They can still log in and catch up. By the way, all our online masterclass sessions are available in PACMRI's digital platforms. And these are accessible for free, and you are all welcome to view and to share our content. Mabuhay ang pananaliksik at mga mananaliksik ng komunikasyon at media. Let us all have an engaging afternoon. Maraming salamat sa pagdalo.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chen. And now, let us proceed to our masterclass proper. So for our first speaker is Mr. Francis Allan Angelo. Mr. Francis is the editor-in-chief of Daily Guardian and a prominent advocate for media ethics and accountability in the Western Visayas region. He is also a product of political science from the University of the Philippines, Visayas. His career demonstrates a deep commitment to bridge the gap between journalism practice and public trust. His work is highly relevant to modern education, particularly in the fields of media literacy and civics. He currently chairs the Iloilo Media Citizen Council, an organization dedicated to institutionalizing press freedom through ethical self-regulation. He also serves as a Visayas trustee for the Philippine Press Institute, the National Association of Newspapers. His expertise focuses on the most critical challenges facing media today. He was a fellow of the U.S. State Department's Edward R. Murrow's Program for Journalists, where his studies centered on media responsibility in an age of disinformation in the United States. He further explored governance model as a fellow in the International Training Program on Media Self-Regulation, which was sponsored by the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, or SIDA, and which included a study tour in Stockholm, Sweden. Mr. Francis actively translated their insights into practice. He is currently leading the Daily Guardian in exploring the integration of artificial intelligence in editorial operations and developing new and sustainable business models for journalism, making his experience vital to understanding the future of the industry. We are privileged to hear Mr. Francis Allan Angelo talk about media ethics and practice amid disruptions in the information ecosystem.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for the very generous talk. And salamat to the Association for Communication and the University of the Philippines Department of Communication Resources. Journalists, I'm currently in coordination with the Global Investigative Journalism Conference here. And still, I'm very happy to be joining today. You just allow to share my slides. So, after we'll be talking about one particular issues like media journalism can face in the current topsy-turvy information environment that we have right now. This topic is not merely an academic exercise with different webinar. In fact, it has become the central, operational, and moral, and I would even argue existential question confronting from every journalist, editor, academic, and media institutions today, particularly here in the Philippines, a nation that has consistently been a focal point for many of these global disruptions. For decades, those of us in media practice and those studying for it undergo a relatively stable, although imperfect, set of assumptions. Our ethical framework was built for a 20th century model defined by information scarcity by institutional thinking. Whether print, radio, or television, the model was one to many. Our guiding principles, as famously articulated by scholars like Prof, were our norms. Our obligation is to the free, our course loyalty to the citizens. Our method must be disciplined by regulation, and we must serve independent monitoring power. These principles form the social contract that granted us, journalists, and media organizations, legitimacy. We held the power to broadcast militarily, accepted the responsibility to serve public. But that bedrock, that very same bedrock, is now polarized in the The information ecosystem has been radically and irrevocably re-engineered by convergence of technological, economic, and political process. Crucially, these new forces or new architecture of informations do not necessarily share our ethical limitations. We are no longer the primary gatekeepers. In many ways, we are not even primary information companions. We are just one voice in the digital world. We face a convergence of these factors that challenge our ethics, our practice simultaneously. For our discussion for today, I will focus on three key points. Number one, weaponization of information disorder, the acceleration of algorithmic decision making, and the systemic platformization of speech. Let's start first with the disruption of the information disorder. Some other some others would call information disorder in a very simplistic manner as fake news. But I do have certain misgivings about this. But there are certain frameworks defined in the foundational report for survival and direction 2017. We must be more precise sign. It outlines a spectrum of misinformation or unintentional falsehoods. For example, you shared a old graphic or code chart from the class suspensions way back several years ago. Not intentionally, but because nagkataon lang na na-share na ang loop. Then we have disinformation or deliberate falsehoods designed to cause harm. And malinformation or genuine information weaponized to cause. One classic example of malinformation would be sex videos being spread around to malign someone. It's true, but it's being made public to malign somebody. Mind you, this information is not an unfortunate byproduct of the open internet. It is rather a sophisticated and often well-funded strategy. It is deployed by state and non-state actors to serve trust, polarize public's audience, silence dissent, and ultimately achieve confidence. Here in the Philippines, this is no theoretical threat or concept. We have been a case study for our past. We have been considering patient zero constancy, especially during the 2016 elections. We all know who got elected in 2016. We have seen how populist campaigns can leverage vast, coordinated digital networks to manipulate politics, harass journalists into silence, and manufacture a sense of widespread and authentic consent. At least this is found one of the in 2016. This harassment often takes the form of red tagging, or the tactic of labeling journalists and critics as subversives or terrorists who incite state-sponsored or vigilante argument. We are being read down or labeled, painted to a corner, in order to instigate partisans or supporters of the city government to harm us or build us. This in turn creates a profound chilling effect that is a precursor to violence. Now, this creates a profound ethical dilemma for practicing journalists. Our traditional commitment to objective balance is actively exploited by these actors who don't argue in the How do we report on a demonstrably false claim from a high official without amplifying? So, so are we really doing our work as journalists, or are we also spreading this kind of disinformation? Yan ang ating nagiging dilemma. When we give both sides equal weight, the side of the verifiable fact and the side of the coordinated lie, are we performing journalistic due diligence, or are we abdicating our future duty to the truth? The system of verification is still essential, but it is now faced by the speed of viral deception. By the time we have fact-checked a claim, it has already infected public consciousness. Which brings us to our second discussion. Disruption that we are experiencing right now is the rapid integration and acceleration of artificial intelligence. AI is no longer a thing of science fiction or futuristic concept. It's here right now. It's a present-day actual evolution, as argued by Beck. In its current form, it automates the generation.
Excuse me, Sir Francis.
Yes, sir.
Can I just ask po if you could come closer to your microphone po, because somehow it's incomprehensible po sa end namin yung inyong...
Okay, sige po.
Thank you po.
How about? Paano po ngayon?
Yan,
Okay na
sir.
po.
Okay na po, Sir
Yes.
Francis. Mas malinaw po.
Okay, sige.
Thank
So,
you.
I'll bring back the second discussion will be the disruption. The disruption that we are experiencing right now is the rapid innovation and acceleration of artificial intelligence. Ang AI, hindi na po siya futuristic. It's now a present-day actor kahit sa mga muso. In its current form, it automates the generation of routine stories such as financial reports or even sports results. It personalizes content feeds for users, deciding by itself what they see and what they do not. And most importantly, AI now governs distribution channels in which we all depend for our news distribution. This raises staggering ethical questions that our existing codes are ill-equipped to answer. Parang hindi akma ang existing journalistic codes and ethical standards sa mga nangyayari ngayon with the advent of artificial intelligence. As AI systems move from simple automation to more sophisticated generation and editorial judgment, almost to the point of being agentic, we face a crisis of accountability. As Nicholas Jacopoulos argues in Automating the News, we must grapple with algorithmic bias. Alam naman natin ng algorithms or it's biased towards what the masses or most of us would love to see, hear, or watch. These systems, often called proprietary black boxes, are trained on historical data and can inherit and scale human biases related to race, gender, class. How do we ensure fairness when the decision to feature a story or a community is made by code? Hirap, ano? Hindi taong gumagawa, hindi AI. When a generative AI writes an article, who really is the consequence? Who is legally and ethically responsible for an error or defamatory statement produced by a machine? Furthermore, anong impact nito sa trabaho natin as a journalist? As an informed employment or labor? What is the role of a human journalist when content can be produced for free and at scale? Libre na, marami pa. Isang upo mo lang, you can actually churn a lot of articles. Sinong author nun? Sinong babayaran? Sinong katasweldohan mo? Gawa pa talaga ng bayan. Our ethics in media journalism were written for human journalists. Ginawa para sa tao. Pero hindi sila akma sa na para ma-audit o matingnan kung gawa ng machines. And third, and perhaps the most systemic disruption, is platformization. Ang ibig sabihin, our relationship with the public is no longer that. Na tayo, even before, media has seldom had any direct interaction with its audience because of its media. Right now, we are mediated by a handful of global technology companies. Meta, Google, X, TikTok, etc. As Van Dyke and Duval described in their seminal work, The Platform Societies, hindi po ito neutral conduits o paraan ng pag-distribute ng balita. These are actually socio-technical structures that actively shape up life, driven by a specific economic logic, which is the logic of connectivity, engagement, and data extraction, not public service. So, pinagdudugtong-dugtong tayo. We are closer. And we engage. Kikisa lang muna tayo. Pero kinukuha ang data natin. Kasi nga, kailangan yung data para may market tayo. At may dalawang masamang epekto. So, first, economically, they have decoupled or pinaghiwalay na ang advertising from content. So, kahit ibenta pa yung data mo for advertising, wala silang pakay. which results in capturing the vast majority of digital ad revenue and gutting the traditional business model of journalism. This forces new news organizations, especially local and independent ones, into a desperate chase for clicks and viral content. This attention economy often rewards sensationalism at the expense of deep investigative or public service journalism. Second, ethically, these algorithms control the informational space. They are the new gatekeepers. The algorithms of these technological companies or big tech prioritize content based on metrics of engagement, like likes, shares, comments, which often favors outrage, simplicity, and emotional manipulation over journalistic values like verification, context, and nuance. We as journalists have become tenants in their land, subject to the opaque rules and sudden algorithmic changes. Our commitment to independence is fundamentally compromised when our very visibility violates the depend on entities that do not share our mission and whose goals are purely commercial or for business. Where does this leave our practice as journalists or the practice of journalism? It leaves us in a defensive, precarious position, struggling to apply 20th century ethics to 21st century crisis. Our practice of verification is too slow. Nauna pa ang disinformation sa atin. Our commitment to independence is now compromised because we have to survive. And our role as public service gatekeepers is rendered almost obsolete when everyone has a microphone, but the loudest ones are controlled by algorithms. However, we cannot abandon our principles. To do so would be to abandon journalism itself. Instead, we must radically reimagine their application in this oftentimes hostile ecosystem. This is a call for a more muscular and present form of journalism. First, we must shift our ethical focus from process to outcome. The old ethic of objectivity as a process. Did we call both sides? Did we use neutral language? These are now insufficient. It has become a shield for both sidedism that platforms lazy journalism. The new ethic must be truth as an outcome, meaning, did our report help the public understand the truth, and resist manipulation? And this means embracing transparency overnight. We must show our work. Instead of just presenting us a fact, we must explain how we know it. It means actively debunking falsehoods and labeling them such, rather than just reporting the controversy. It means prioritizing context over the hot take. Meaning, context, hindi lang yung sensational. Dapat maintindihan natin kung ano yung issue. Second, we must demand and build accountability, both for ourselves and for the platforms. In fact, this is one of our tasks right now dito sa conference. We have to deal with the social media platforms and how we can make them more accountable and how they can help us, journalists and news organizations, help them stem this information. And hopefully, in the coming weeks, we will come up with something. For AI, we must follow the call to develop ethical guidelines for its procurement and use. Then we must join the call for algorithmic auditing and impact assessments. We must be transparent with our audience about what content is automated or used with the help of AI, created with the use of AI for editing, and what is human created. For platforms, we must collectively, as an industry and as researchers, advocate for regulatory platforms or regulatory frameworks that demand transparency in content moderation and amplification systems. We must argue for public value to be prioritized over mere engagement. And third, we must diversify our practice and we build a direct relationship with our careers. This is the only long-term strategy to escape the platform trap, as Van Dyke and others argue. This is not just a theoretical pivot, but it requires new structures of public accountability. A powerful localized model for this is the Media Citizen Council, a form of voluntary co-regulation championed by the Philippine Press Institute. Now, ang mga councils na ito ay nagiging middle ground between total press freedom and government control. Ang pakay po nito is to preserve press freedom but at the same time enhance social responsibility in public trust in the media. These councils move ethical complaints out of the courts into a forum for community mediation. Audience at community ang nag-mediate or nag-management sa kung anumang ethical complaints ang binabato sa ating news organization. Isa pong buo ay yung Iloilo Media Citizen Council. At katulad ng kanyang counterparts in Cebu and Davao, it was established by local media and civil society partners to create a formal, independent body for this very exact purpose, to bridge the gap between media and citizens, hear public grievances, and promote a more ethical and accountable local press. This requires us to practice journalism as a service, not just a mere product. It means deep listening, focusing on community needs, and demonstrating our value not as disposable content providers, but as indispensable, trusted fiduciaries of public. Sa mission nga po ng PACMRI, we aim to ferment discourse and debate. And research, just like journalism, must move, and just like research, journalism must move beyond describing the problem. We are awash in diagnosis of the sickness. Alam namin, sakit na ang problema na. And we need to research that builds trust in resolutions. We need Filipino-centered studies. How do we create new, sustainable business models for local news in our specific economic context? How can we design and implement ethical AI for our multilingual news? What regulatory frameworks can protect public interest journalism from political attacks and platform dominance without impeding free speech? What makes the Media Citizen Council, like the one in Iloilo, effective and sustainable? The practice of media ethics is no longer a static code. Is no longer a static code learned in a classroom. It is a dynamic, daily, and very difficult negotiation with powerful disruptive forces. Our survival and, frankly, the health of our democracy depends on navigating it with courage, integrity, and the intellectual rigor that organizations like PACMRI champions. Thank you and magandang hapon.
Thank you so much, Sir Francis. And now, I think because Sir Francis is currently in Kuala Lumpur for his conference, we will move to our Q&A session. So the floor is now open.
Pasensya na po but kung medyo spotty man rest assured I share a copy of this. Di lang ng slides, kundi pati yung aking talk para ma-review po ninyo at ma-consider po ninyo. Magamit din po. Pasensya na po at medyo spotty lang talaga kasi.
Okay, so I think they're still shy. So I have a question here, Sir Francis. So I am quite curious with the integration of artificial intelligence to the current journalism practice. So what promising changes did AI do in the journalism practice, and what could possibly be its threats? Also, given that AI is quite evident in the ecosystem of social media.
Yeah. Yan ngayon, no? Parang again, it's part of the disruption. But in my own experiments and work with AI, in my more newsroom, which is I do cautiously, productivity will be enhanced. especially when editing or proofreading your articles. With all the necessary and important guardrails or guidelines, you actually finish the job, or AI can actually help with, let's say, 70 to even 80% of the work in editing or page building. Meaning, ginagawa namin, our reporters still write the stories. They cannot use AI to write the stories. AI is only used to edit and proofread the stories, because I still read regular articles and judge that the appropriate wrote and headlining. AI is only there to detect grammatical or spelling errors. So yeah, it's really just a tool, very important tool that must be governed by certain guidelines.
I think it's quite clear that in terms of journalism practice, we get to integrate AI in the post-production aspect. So not necessarily on the writing.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how about the
O
others?
pwede rin po siya sa production, for example. We use LLM or some other AI technologies to transcribe recorded interviews, to summarize documents, to help us understand it quickly. But the reporters are still required to write the stories themselves. And madedetect mo naman pag AI yung sulat, o talagang purely AI lang talaga ang nag-hallucinate. Ang inutusan niya lang ang AI na magsulat, wala siyang reference to verifiable facts, dates. Talagang ingat.
Thank you so much, Sir Francis. So let's just recapitulate everything. So in terms of writing and the journalism practice we have now, we integrate AI on the pre-production or pre-writing process and the post-writing process. But the entirety of it, from the transcription and then the checking, it's always the journalist that does the writing. So it's quite important for us to always have this in mind. So AI is there as a tool, so not necessarily to write everything for you. Okay, so how about the others? You may send your questions through our chat box, or you and I can call your name out. So you can directly ask your questions live. Mukhang nahihiya po sila, or baka sa sobrang ganda ng ating diskusyon ay wala na silang katanungan. Ayan. So I think we can proceed already for our, of course, for our photo opportunity first. So,
Kyle, there's one question
okay.
in the Zoom chat. I
Okay.
can read this out for you. Sir
Thank you.
Francis, how has media ethics moved in the Visayas region as evidenced in the practices of the Iloilo Media Citizen Council? So maybe you can speak a little bit on that also.
Generally po, well, to be honest naman, most of our colleagues naman try to be very ethical with their practices. Observe, not necessarily, I mean, kahit na lang simpleng decency. How do you report cases of self-harm, suicide? How do you report cases of women and children who are victims of abuses and violence? So those things, medyo ano sila doon, sumusunod sila doon. But for the major and more organized news outlets, its ethics is also a primary thing. Ang problema natin yung news dun sa social media. And in as much as the council wants to address everything, debate or lecture everybody on this, or scold everywhere, the sheer overwhelming numbers of questionable practices is just too much. So what we do is to come out with blanket statements reminding everyone, for one, to be more discerning, more sensitive, more considerate in their reporting, and also for the journalists to be conscious about their safety, especially when there's a calamity and they're reporting in the middle of a calamity. Those things, those very simple things that they would appreciate from time to time. They must be reminded of this also. Again, while we thrive as organizations, I always believe that ethics is a personal thing. How you see right and wrong all boils down to the person. And sometimes you will be judged, you will be ridiculed, or you will be praised for how you conduct or comport yourself based on your personal belief. But I think journalists as an organization or as persons, they do have they need a certain level of sensitivity and consideration the things around them, because particularly in Iloilo, which is not really a big community, everybody knows. So you will always be matutunan. Hey, parang hindi yung maganda yung the way you deliver the report, yung that. So the council is there as a judge, not as a juror or even an executioner, but we are there to from time to time remind that we have to throw certain lines when it comes to our work. And if push comes to shove that there are complaints against journalists, we will be there to step in to avoid filings in libel cases and discuss everything in a mediated.
Thank you
Okay.
for that, Sir Francis. Back to you, Kyle.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Sir Francis. And are there any more questions at hand? I guess that's it.
Meron
So,
pa po
Kyle,
atang isa.
meron sa chat
meron?
box.
Okay.
Okay. I can read it for
Okay.
you. So this
Okay.
is from our Director for Information and Linkages, Allison. Thank you so much. Based on your experience, Sir Francis, in both the newsroom and the council, is it really possible to put together safeguards to tools as volatile now as AI tools? Can you
Yeah.
share the process in which you all come up with these? Or perhaps how do you delineate ethics in the process, especially with issues of data churning and the realities in which AI tools use data in third-party services?
Well, for example po, I understand na talagang minsan walang tawag dito, tailor fit or one size fits all na AI guidelines or regulation. It all boils down to each. It all boils down to the people, the leadership, each nation, how they use. But eventually, because AI is so ubiquitous, alam mo naman ang flavor of remove yung AI generated. Lalo na pag wala siyang basis or context na facts. Pag talagang sinabi mo sa AI, o bahala ka dyan, magsulat ka lang dyan. Pero wala siyang basis sa susulat ka. Malalaman mo dyan. But here is one thing about AI tools, particularly third-party tools, because negosyo din yan. So you have to pay. Siguro maybe this affordability issue is like blessing in disguise. If you are only limited to several times use of AI because you can only afford the basic or not cheap of the version, by siyempre, parang ano din yun, parang blessing in disguise na madi-discourage sila to use AI wantonly or walang pakot dati. But importante talaga na the newsroom discusses or talks about sa wag, if the reporter advocates for the use of AI, pag-usapan pa in what way at hanggang saan. It's like, ano po, dating newspaper, tapos bigla may internet website. Parang nung una, parang ayaw pa ng website kasi gusto mo newspaper. Pero eventually, you will have to discuss among yourselves how do we use internet for use distribution, which is right now happening. We have social. Ethics is only as good as the intentions and the vision and mission the organization and every person within the organization. Again, I always perceive ethics as a personal thing, but if you can collectively come together and form your own guardrails and guidelines, mas naiibig ko yun. The end vision lang naman, or the end parang gusto mo lang naman is to serve the public better, the audience better by providing them with the kind of information that they need, information that will empower them, not confuse. especially yung iba-iba ang galing kung saan-saan galing information. Journalists or journalism, they don't mean to control speech or information. They're to distill information. Wala namang wala namang pumipigil sa'yo maniwala o kumuha ng impormasyon kung saan. Siguro, what we do is to help us clarify this. And yun, the very major ethical consideration there is, are you being objective? Are you being fair? Or maybe are you just being true? Never mind about objectivity and fairness, because these things are very, very overrated sometimes. But how do you look at truth? How do you arrive at truth? And how do you tell it?
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Francis. I think it's quite imperative for us to always have that reflexivity when we talk about ethics and in terms of the practice of journalism in our end. So I guess okay. So thank you so much. I think there's no more question at hand. So I think we can proceed first to the awarding of our certificate. So let me read. So the Philippine Association for Communication and Media Research Incorporated awards this certificate of appreciation to Sir Francis Allan Lutilia Angelo in recognition of their valuable time and expertise as research speaker for the masterclass titled Media and Mindfulness, Underscoring Ethics and Centering Mental Well-Being in a Polarized Media Landscape. This live event is held online and is part of the PACMRI 2025 Masterclass series given this 21st day of November 2025. Thank you so much, Sir Francis.
Salamat din po before po tayo kay Professor Z. I would like, I really appreciate ginagawa ng PACMRI, particularly in doing research. And I encourage you to do research po, especially in this very new, novel, and sometimes disruptive frontiers. We need your help from the academy to help us figure out and take stock of things para maintindihan din po, maibahagi po natin sa ating mga kasamahan sa media. Ang PIDS recently came out with a study that right now, despite the digital age, media ownership in the Philippines became even more cornered by bigger corporations, which is very okay lang naman po yun. When it comes to the communities, I think we need more community news organizations that will also help us understand our stuff. I think your group, the academy, can help us understand these things more bigger. Again, magandang hapon po sa lahat. Ingat po. Salamat po.
Thank you so much, Sir Francis. But before you leave, let's go. Let's have a photo opportunity with you. Ayan po. So may I request everyone to turn their cameras on? And so, Noel, can you do the honors? Okay, thank you. You're on mute. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. So let's give a hot minute for everyone to turn on their cameras. Okay. Kyle, can you stop share for a while so that
Okay, sorry.
everyone can. Yan, okay. Ready? One, two, one more. One, two. And for the second panel, ready? One, two. And another safety shot. One, two. Thank you, everyone. Back to you, Kyle. Thank you, Sir
Okay.
Francis.
Thank you so much, Sir Francis. Okay. So now let's move on to our second speaker. She's the assistant professor, Jaja Bacaling-Cabag. So Miss Jaja Bacaling-Cabag is an assistant professor at the College of Communication of West Visayas State University in Iloilo City. She is a former broadcast practitioner and feature writer. She also works as a remote team member of the communications and marketing team of GIVIT, an Australian nonprofit organization. Aside from being an academic, she is also a qualified yoga teacher. She completed her teacher training in Manila in 2018 under Dr. Eileen Tupas and is currently under the mentorship of Dr. Lauren Tober, the founder of Mental Health Aware Yoga and Yoga Psychology Institute. Assistant Professor Bacaling-Cabag's research interests include health and leadership communication, women's issues, mental health and media mindfulness, workplace well-being, and social media for social good. She currently serves as the research coordinator for the Visayas for PACMRI and a Visayas screening committee member for the Globe Media Excellence Awards. She is also currently pursuing her PhD in communication at the College of Media and Communication at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Here is Ms. Jaja Bacaling-Cabag with her topic on centering mindfulness and mental health in communication and media research.
Thank you very much, Sir Kyle. Let me just share my presentation. Okay ba? Can you see my screen?
Kita naman Z.
Sige po. Okay. I'll probably turn on my uh, camera later, no? Pag medyo okay na yung, yung Wi-Fi. All right. So thank you, Noel, and thank you, Allison. No, and also I'd like to thank the PACMRI headed by the lovely Doc Chen, who is here, for inviting me to be one of your speakers for the Masterclass series this year. So this topic on mindfulness and mental health and wellness, no, well-being as a whole this is a topic that's very close to my heart, and I'm really glad that it is getting the attention that it deserves. No, I've always felt kasi na mindfulness and wellness are marginalized topics in the academic space. So I'm really happy that we're going to talk about it this afternoon, and also I've been seeing it front and center in several conferences. The last few conferences I attended this year focused on wellness and health promotion and mental well-being. In fact, the last one, mga 2 weeks ago lang, also focused on navigating the digital age through media mindfulness. No, so let me just. Okay. Speaking of conferences, quick ano lang. Right now, today is the last day of the Global Wellness Summit happening in Dubai. So very timely din yung topic natin for this masterclass. And in case you're interested in these topics also, next year, I found out about this recently. The Global Mental Health Advocacy Forum is happening here in Iloilo, no? So come on over if you're interested. I'd be happy to meet you and see you in person. So all right. So this is an overview of what we will be talking about this afternoon. Medyo mas mahaba ng konti yung presentation ko compared to Sir Francis. So 2 parts. This is, by the way, this is going to be a very demure, very mindful, Noel, very mindful discussion. We will move from mindfulness, no? So basics of mindfulness benefits for ourselves and for others, and applying the principles of mindfulness to communication and media research. So, as I've said earlier, this is very relevant, and I think the timing couldn't be more perfect. Yung mga pinag-usapan ni Sir Francis kanina, no? So, there's just a lot going on right now. Dami nating distractions, there's bad news, there's a lot of uncertainty, and then of course, because yung focus natin ngayon, no, about how do you become mindful um, in a polarized media state, no? So there are things that are pulling us in many directions, and finding a certain sense of calm and stability can feel like an ongoing challenge. So it's I'm sure many of you will agree with me that it's difficult at this time to feel truly present and connected. No, let's see. Anong maano nyo? Kasi I was thinking about corruption issues, and then the earthquakes and the typhoons that have happened recently. And just this week, I shared this with the PACMRI as members, some members earlier. Just this week in Iloilo, we've received no several bomb threats in universities and schools here. So ang daming ganap, and this entire year just keeps throwing surprises, no, and throwing us off balance. So the question now is, how do we navigate and find steadiness, no, amidst all of these things? We're all very busy. We live in what my yoga teacher used to say, automaticity. We live in automaticity. So more than ever, the practice of mindfulness is extremely important in helping us navigate not just our own personal lives, but also the challenges of what's going on right now, no? And the challenges, of course, of polarized media. So, sige, let me begin with this, no? Um, Sir Noel and Sir Kyle, hindi ko ata makikita yung sa chat. So, can you just type, no? Kung what's your current state of mind at the moment? Mindful, two words, double L, ang full, or mindful, no? This is, by the way, one of my favorite images, no, on mindfulness, no. Um, Saan kayo diyan? Ano ngayon ang state of mind nyo? Or maybe in the past week, or the past month, or the entire 2025. The year is about to end. So, ano na tayo?
Mindful na kami.
Mindful
So,
na?
FULL.
Ma- at this time of the year, no? And especially for us students and teachers, no? Mindful, plateful. And so I understand, no? I'm also an academic. So we kaya nga very timely ito, no? Because our mind is full, our plates are full. So where does that leave us now, no? And you feel this in your body, you know. When I say these things, I'm wearing my yoga teacher hat, you know. When we are overwhelmed or maybe almost burned out, you feel this in your body kasi, 'di ba? You feel the tension in your back, your neck, your shoulders, and maybe right now, even while you're listening to me, baka you're you're holding tension in your jaw. So take a breath and unclench your jaw. Um, I'm not sure if you've seen this. When was the last time you took a moment for yourself, no? So, lahat tayo very busy. I saw this post. It's a short video of fans of Bridgerton know this person very well. Recently declared as the sexiest man alive. No? So Jonathan Bailey and the very cute Elmo. If you haven't seen this very short video, I hope you can look it up and watched it. It's very short, but it's very heartwarming, and I think it's the kind of video, the kind of content that many of us need at this time of the year, especially if you're having quite a hard time, no? So check it out, and this is just something for you to think about. When was the last time you really took a moment for yourself? Maybe it was just this morning, or maybe over lunchtime na you were really savoring your lunch. No, we call that mindful eating. No, so all our actions, no, in all our actions, we strive to be mindful. All right, so I'll get right to it. Um, I think I can now show my face. Ayan. So, um, this first we need to define mindfulness. So, for the benefit of those who are very new to this concept, we turn to the one of the greatest teachers of mindfulness. You can see I've included the titles of their books, no, below. So, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, and then there's Dr. Tara Brach, who are mindfulness teachers. So I'm using their definitions for this discussion because yung sa kanila, there are many others, but theirs is number one, theirs is my favorite, and theirs is the simplest. No? So what is it really? So according to Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, it is the awareness that arises from paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. And for Dr. Tara Brach naman, same, no? Being fully present, paying attention, pero may kasamang, sorry, with kindness, to whatever is happening in the moment without judgment. And Dr. Tara Brach has this interesting framework, no, called RAIN. RAIN stands for recognize what is happening, allow it to be there, investigate with interest and care, and nurture with self-compassion. So just to simplify, we just need to remember three things about mindfulness. It's present moment awareness, being fully present in the now and in the here, and doing this purposefully, intentionally. So, like I mentioned earlier, if what's mindful eating, how do you eat mindfully? You just focus on your food, the tastes, the textures, and things like that. No, and really, you know this. No, think about right now. Think about your favorite food, you know, and or your coffee, and how you really savor your coffee when you have it first thing in the morning or in the afternoon. And then one important element really is the non-judgment. So when you are trying to be mindful, and this is very difficult, I understand this is very difficult for many people, is to suspend judgment. So for example, when if you are the kind of person who's uncomfortable with your own thoughts, like sitting in silence, for example, and you don't, so you tend to do a lot of things because you want to distract yourself. You don't want to sit with your thoughts. You'd be surprised at how many people have a hard time really doing that. No, so non-judgment in this case would mean that you just let your thoughts pass. We cannot stop them from coming, so you just let your thoughts pass. And one of my teachers said, so because she uses visualizations a lot, so she talks about think of your thoughts as clouds and they're just passing by. So it's a way to exercise your mind, your brain, to practice non-judgment. So you don't say, um, I need to stop thinking about this, or this is distracting me too much, things like that. So just really taking breaths and letting it go and letting it move on. So there are various perspectives on mindfulness, but for purposes of this talk, we will be focusing on on the secular or the psychological perspective. So mindfulness as a tool for developing self-awareness, emotional regulation, and cognitive skills for achieving secular goals. Like, oh, I'm sure many of us here, no, who doesn't want this? I mean, these are our goals, diba? We want to perform better, we want to reduce our stress, and we want to be able to consume media mindfully. Okay, so depende sa inyo. If you're interested in this, you can explore the Buddhist point of view of mindfulness, and you can also look at mindfulness as a path, as a spiritual path. So I often get asked, when we talk about mindfulness, they always equate it with meditation. Is it the same? Do you need to do meditation every day to become mindful? We get questions like that. So um, first, I'd like to share with you though, that in yogic scriptures, the mind is described as a restless ocean. Tama naman, di ba? And all of us here in the academe, even if you're not from in the academe, no, you can relate to this, no. So what meditation does is it stills these waves, no, diba? Ang ganda. No? So meditation is a formal practice that helps you become mindful. No, so with meditation, it's a systematic way of training the attention, and if you practice it consistently, it cultivates what we call internal stability. This phrase reminds me of the late Gina Lopez. We know her achievements, right, in her fight for the environment and all her wonderful advocacies on the environment. But what many people do not know is that she was a yoga practitioner. I think she traveled to South Africa to promote it, and then, so she was a meditator. And I think in one of her interviews with, was it Pinky Webb? We will Google that later. She mentioned this, no, because I think she was asked something like about how she is able to navigate, the difficulties of her life and the challenges she was facing, especially when she was the NR secretary, and she mentioned this internal stability, which was, to me, was really profound, no? Because we've seen her work, we've seen what she has done, and to be able to do these things, no. So pumasok nga sa mind ko, iba ang level of mindfulness ni the late Gina Lopez. Okay, so I get questions about meditation, and then of course there are always skeptics. So being an academic, I had to, you turn to the science, you look for evidence, you look for proof that how this helps us, no? So there is a neuroscience to mindfulness. The neuroscience of mindfulness is very interesting. I've also included some books you might want to read. I think some of them are also available online. And it tells us basically that mindfulness strengthens these three things, no? The prefrontal cortex, it helps with amygdala regulation and interoception. And if you look at this, reflection, decision making, emotional reactivity, awareness in the body, we need these things, especially at this time, no, na ang dami nating distractions, or every time we're always on our phone. You just look at comment sections in social media, about comment sections ng mga posts na very polarizing, and you see just how people would react and attack and harass everyone else, no. So mindfulness can help with these things, no, because for one thing, it can help reduce emotional reactivity. I'll talk more about that later. So in other words, looking at the neuroscience of mindfulness, its core benefit really is on nervous system regulation. When we are stressed, we are on fight or flight mode. If you have medical background, I'm sure you know this, no? Or if you have sisters, brothers, relatives, parents who are doctors or nurses. But when you are mindful, if you're in a mindful state, our nervous system is in the rest and digest mode. And this is the exact moment when you can be your best. No, I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of this kasi hahaba yung pag-uusapan natin, but so the benefits, no? It can help calm the fluctuations of the mind. It can help minimize reactivity, improve cognitive function. Tayong sa academe, we really need this, no? Cognitive function, attention, memory, no? So reducing our stress and our burnout, and of course, enhancing emotional regulation and resilience. So you might be wondering, so how, no? Ma'am Z, my students call me Ma'am Z. So paano? How? So how do you, okay, so I've introduced mindfulness to you and what it means. Now we've looked at definitions, and it's the neuroscience. So how do you do this? No? And this applies to, and these are just very simple recommendations. This applies to everyone. You don't have to be in the academe, or working like a corporate slave to need mindfulness. So first, you can start small. Short practices like focusing on your breath. So yes, you can actually practice meditation. I don't force people to do it. They usually just come to it at their own time and their pace. So, and also, there's a misconception, no? Because when you talk about meditation, you immediately think about sitting on the floor in lotus pose and closing your eyes, things like that. You can do that with music pa, if you want, o may background ka pa ng mga waves of the ocean and things like that, para feel na feel mo if you have that corner in your house to do that. You can do that, or you can just, in the middle of your day, um, in the middle of work, when you start to feel, for example, in my case, I know I need to stop and take a breath and take time to be mindful when I start to feel something in my shoulders, a little tense in my shoulders, or in my neck, no, or when you feel a little bit of back pain. So just take a moment, take a breath, no? And then second, you can also practice non-judgmental awareness. This is what I mentioned earlier, letting your thoughts pass, no? I know this is difficult, but we can always try. And also remember what I said about thoughts being clouds. Just letting them pass and letting them go. And incorporating mindfulness into your tasks. So you apply mindful techniques to specific academic activities such as taking a few moments to focus on breath before writing or maybe before your class, no? Or ano pa? Ano pa mga ano natin, Sir Noel? Ang dami nating ginagawa. So, and what I always tell people is this, and even my former students, na there's no right and wrong way to do this, no? So you have to find uh, ways that it can work for you based on your own schedule, your own time. And then so find what works for you. Some people use apps. Even if I can do a quick meditation by myself, sometimes I use apps. So I use one of my favorite apps is Calm, and then there's also Headspace, and then there's Insight Timer. So some people use apps because they like the guided meditations, but some academics, some people prefer non-digital methods. So you don't have to sit on the floor or on your couch to meditate. It can be mindful walking, no? But with mindful walking, the rule is this: no headphones. Unless you're listening to perhaps calming music or, well, anyway, whatever works for you, no. If you like to walk and really listen to all the sounds around you and just taking it all in, that's good. But if you love walking with music, and your headphones or earphones, that's also fine if that's your way of mindfully walking. And then I'll teach you the has anyone heard of this 333 rule, no? When you feel stressed or overwhelmed, you can use grounding or centering techniques like the 333 rule to bring yourself back to the present moment. So, 3, focus on 3 things you can see, 3 things you can hear, and 3 moves. So you can either maybe shake your hands, rotate your head, no? Or what do you like to do on your desk, no? Or when you're at home, maybe you lie down for a bit. So move, do 3 moves, no? So using different parts of your body. So share nyo naman later kung ano yung ginagawa nyo. So for you to regulate yourself, no? So and this is interesting because some of us may already be doing these things, no? And di mo lang alam na, oh, you're being mindful pala, no? So just keep doing that. Ayun. So this is just a reiteration of the benefits of mindfulness, but nakafocus siya to academics, researchers, and students. But I would like to say it's for all, no? I mean, who doesn't want this and who doesn't need this? No, improve cognitive function, reduction of stress and anxiety. With all the typhoons that have, I know, we've had 21 so far typhoons. So anxiety levels have been high, no? And then nakikita natin sa news, if you're not affected and nakikita natin sa news what happened to the people who were affected, it creates all these sorts of emotions, no? And so we need to cope with these things, no? Increased self-awareness and resilience, enhanced self-regulation. So we all need these things. It's not just limited to us academics or researchers or students. No, if you're a mother, you're a father, you're a breadwinner in the family. So we all need to find ways to be mindful and to practice it, no, so that you can benefit from it. Now, I had to share this with you. This is Dr. Eileen Tupas. We called her teacher Eileen during our training. Before becoming a lead trainer, she was a professor. She was a professor at Ateneo. Baka meron sa inyong nakakakilala sa kanya. And then, so she left that teaching life, and then she became a full-time yoga teacher, and she became our lead trainer. And I used to wonder, kasi every time we had classes, we had sessions, in her meditation classes with us, ito palagi yung favorite mantra niya. And I find it later ko na fully na understand, no, what it means, no. So it's a beautiful mantra, and I'd like to share this with you, that you can use, well, whatever you're facing right now, no, or in the future. So you can just repeat this to yourself, no? May I meet this moment fully. This is the being fully present part of mindfulness. So you can repeat this to yourself. May I meet this moment fully. May I meet it as a friend. I think it's such a beautiful line. Kasi how do we meet our friends? 'Di ba? We smile, we open arms, may hug, may beso, ganyan, 'di ba? So no matter what we face in life, meet it fully. No? Meet it fully despite its ugliness, no? Kung ugly man 'yon or difficult man 'yon. Meet it as a friend. So and so this one of the things that really that I carry with me up to this day, no, ever since I completed the training. Also, may joke kami. I think baka nakita nyo rin to in some memes, no, on social media, na sabi nila, yoga people are supposed to be calm. No, we're we're all here because we're a little bit nuts. Yun. So, natatawa kami because, I mean, even our teachers, no, sabi nila that that's one of the challenges also, because people think that, you're calm all the time, but no, we're human too. So these are just tools that we use, no, to help us navigate everything. All right, so now let's go to the mental health part, no. Um, the World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, and can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Check ba tayo dito? Check ba tayo dito? Can we cope with the normal stresses of life? Can we work productively and fruitfully? I'm sure yes tayo dito sa able to make a contribution. I'm sure lahat tayo dito meron. Realizing our own abilities, no? At this point, siguro we have already done this. So let's take a quick look at this, no? Recent stats, mental health survey in the country. Excuse me. You look at the frequency of stress in one's daily life, 34% frequently. Filipinos experiencing big stress related to different factors, and Oh, financial situation, 53%, followed by health, 42%. No? And look at this, no? A significant portion of the population experience mental health stress. 1 in 3 students exhibit symptoms of mental health problems. There is a notable rise in suicide rates. I'm sure everyone knows this now. A high prevalence of disorders like depression and anxiety. And last year, um, if you look at our workforce, working Filipinos, no, so 87%, that's huge, of professionals in the Philippines reported experiencing work-related mental health problems, issues, or conditions. No? Plus, and this is what Sir Francis was talking about earlier, yung media polarization and the mechanisms that exacerbate it. So think about things like algorithmic pull, emotional dysregulation that's been happening, to many, automatic reactions, the addictive nature of social media, habitual autopilot scrolling, reactive sharing of misinformation, and then of course there's reduced empathy. I think um Doc Chen is an expert on hostile communication. I think Doc, di ba, no? Because he did the study on this, no? So all these things are happening. And so now what? No? And ano ang role ng, kanina we were talking about how mindfulness can benefit us individually. So now let's take it to the media and comm na stage, no? So mindfulness now becomes a powerful strategy for navigating and mitigating the negative effects of a polarized media landscape. So I've written 3 important um questions here, no? So how do we process, respond, and move from a place of compassionate understanding with all these things happening, with all the problems, with all the challenges, no? How do we are we able to suspend our egos? How do we suspend our egos, especially on social media, no? How do we approach communication and media consumption with mindfulness and care? I don't have the answer to all these questions, and I will be throwing you many more questions when I talk about the critical research areas that I've identified. So I'm just putting it out there for us to really think about and reflect on, and especially um our roles, our roles as teachers or as academics, as researchers, and what we can do about this, and how we can take and use the principles of mindfulness to solve many of our problems. So very simply, if you're doing a mindfulness practice, if you're practicing mindfulness in your everyday life, so let's take your mindfulness practice and your media consumption. So your mindfulness techniques will come in the form of pausing and breathing, being self-aware, being in the present moment, non-judgmental observation, and intentionality. So when you practice the pause, 'di ba? I think there are also memes on this, no? Practicing the pause. It creates a space between impulse and action, reducing immediate affective emotional responsive to provocative content. How many of us, and be honest, here have been, I don't know, have been guilty of yung if in social media, if someone comments on, let's say, your post and disagrees with you, may tendency mo is to, 'di ba, to fight back, to answer back, no? And dapat mas intelligent yung sagot mo, 'di ba? So mind how do you become mindful in that situation, no? You need to be able to pause and take a breath, and first of all, do you need to respond, no? If you do, how do you respond mindfully? So these are the questions that we need to think about. And then with self-awareness, uh, being mindful helps you recognize your emotional triggers and physical sensations. Every yoga teacher will tell you how important it is to listen to your body. It's a very simple phrase, you know, even kids can understand it, but they don't really practice that. so, but listening to your body, there are always signs. Our bodies are always talking to us. Pounding heart, tense muscles. Yun na kanina I was talking about, tension in your jaw and your neck and your shoulders, and you need to, after a while, you need to take a breath and just release everything. If you're aware of the sensations in your body, it can help you become more mindful. No, and then of course there's non-judgmental observation. It encourages you to observe your thoughts and feelings without immediate interpretation or judgment, allowing for a more measured response to conflicting viewpoints. Very useful siya when there's hostility, when there's disagreement. And there's plenty of that on social media right now, as we all know, no? And then there's intentionality, which involves consciously choosing which media to consume and for how long, rather than falling into a problematic news use or endless scrolling. I've interviewed a few broadcast practitioners just a few months ago for this paper on mindful digital practices, no? So I found out that some of them, they've learned to, yung term nila was they've learned to manipulate the algorithm. That's how they can clean and filter their pages, especially filtering it from negative comments and hate, no? And we know, you know what I'm talking about. So, yun. I hope we can practice that. Now, how do we center now this being mindful and, mental health in the research, no? So I've identified critical research areas, and we have, because I love that we have recently been praising our mountains. No, we have the Sierra Madre task of addressing the global challenge of deteriorating mental health. No, what do we need to do as communicators, as media practitioners, as teachers, as academics? We need to change the national conversation. We need to communicate clearly about mental health. Stigma is still very high, we have to, and this is very important, I wish nandito pa si Sir Francis, no? We have to responsibly frame mental health stories, especially the ones involving suicide. And of course, so now, how do we, what does centering mindfulness and mental health in media and communication involve? So it involves examining the impact of media on mental well-being, leveraging communication platforms to promote mindfulness-based interventions, exploring potential negative effects of media consumption, and exploring positive opportunities for digital platforms to deliver mental health support and educational resources. So I I actually have a longer list, but for purposes of this presentation, I've narrowed it down to three. So we're looking at three critical research areas. One is mindful communication and media production, and under that, we have ethical media practices, designing mindful technology, and then supportive communication, which is very, very important in workplaces. Number two is the media's role, of course, in mental health promotion. We're already doing a good job in this area, but there's more to be done. And then, of course, because of the 21 typhoons and the earthquakes, we need to look at mental health during disasters. So if you are a researcher and you're interested in some of these areas, no, I'm just going to share possible questions, no? Like I said, no, I don't have the answers to these questions, but so we need to do research on this, no? So for the critical area research one, research area, I mean one, on mindful communication and media production, the main question is, how can mindfulness be integrated into the creation and reception of media content? So I think these are very, very important questions on ethical media practices. For example, how can journalists and media professionals incorporate mindfulness to build emotional resilience, promote more compassionate and less sensationalized reporting, which can reduce potentially reducing compassion fatigue in audiences. And very interesting on mindful technology, how can digital tools and apps be designed with mindfulness principles to create engaging, restorative user experiences that support mental well-being? If you have friends who are software developers, web designers, no? This is very interesting, designing mindful technology. And then supportive communication, no? How can mindfulness improve interpersonal, group, and cross-cultural communication? How can we foster empathy, self-awareness, and non-reactive responses to each other's ideas and emotions? So for the second area on media and mental health promotion, how can media and communication channels be leveraged to deliver mental health services, information, and peer support, especially to undeserved populations? How can social media be a platform for sharing experiences, find support networks, and accessing motivational content, contributing to positive mental health outcomes? In one of my classes, no, group work kami, and our paper is on, um it's a qualitative study, no, so we looked at the experiences of mothers who have children with ASD, autism. And in the interviews, no, they shared about how social media has greatly helped them, no, in finding support. So many of these mothers have mental health conditions because of bearing the brunt of caregiving, no, because they have a child with autism. So that's interesting. And then I'm sure there you can think of many other studies, to do similar to that. And then of course, very important focus area on mental health during disasters, disaster fatigue. So disaster fatigue is the physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion that we experience due to frequent and often overlapping natural disasters. No, so fresh pa to sa atin, and we're we're so used to this happening every year, every few months, and in our case in Iloilo, sunod-sunod sila, Typhoon Tino, and then what was the big one? So, hindi nga hindi ka pa nga naka-recover from the last one, babagyuhin ka na naman. So, disaster fatigue is all too real, no? And so the prolonged exposure to all these things happening leads to feelings of helplessness, anxiety, and stress, no? So, ano lang bang kaya ng DSWD, no, to provide support? So tayo naman as researchers, what can we do, no? If we study disaster fatigue, it's going to be valuable information as to the kind of services and support that our government and even private organizations can provide. So what can we, when it comes to disasters, no, what can we examine and try to understand, you know? Mental health outcomes like depression, anxiety, and PTSD. I mean, if you've never experienced losing your home or being flooded, hanggang ceiling yung baha, and having to go through all that dirt and mud to clean your house. So, um, there are studies on this actually, yung disaster fatigue, but we need to be able to focus on the Philippines because we are extremely vulnerable. So there's also looking at risk factors like direct exposure, displacement, and loss. How can we develop and evaluate effective interventions such as psychological first aid and step care models? we can study the mental health needs of vulnerable populations, such as, well, in our case, mothers, no, and the youth. You know. And maybe you can think of other vulnerable groups as well. And then even people with disability. I remember because one of my friends, no, she's in a wheelchair, and she's from Cebu. And when this happened, no, so she was sharing about the difficulty, no, because as a person with disability. And then of course, we need to take a look at the long-term impact of these disasters on our mental health, no, including the need for culturally appropriate and community-based support. I'm konti na lang. I think we're down to the last three. So I just wanted to share this, no. You might want to look at this. This is a white paper written by Dr. Mike McCurt and several other authors, no. So mental health communication, what we know and what we can do better. And I added this here because these are also very important areas and very important questions, no? As an addition to the critical research areas that I identified. So maganda rin ito. First, he focuses on the stigma, no? What it is, what it does. And still, stigma is high in the country, when it comes to mental health. And then mental health in the mainstream media, framing, suicide reporting, and all these things, no? So I think this is also a very important question. How are our journalists being trained to report on these issues? We know there are trainings, but how are they being trained? And then there's an entire world in healthcare about I spoke to a few doctors a few months ago at a health conference, and I was so happy to hear that they said, we need training on mindful communication, how providers talk about mental health, how doctors talk to their patients. How are providers currently being trained to talk about mental health concerns? So it's surprising to me because um, sila na doktor na, medical doctors at that, no? Parang on the side of patients naman, no? Baka you know of stories like this also, no? Na, ano ba yun? Parang I didn't feel any empathy at all from my doctor. Parang, "Oh, how do you feel?" Ganyan-ganyan lang. And then parang, there's a lack of compassionate care. There's a lack of meaningful communication when it comes to patient care. So that's also an interesting area to look into for us scholars, no. Ayan. And then I like what he said, no. Um, about communication na sabi niya simply changing the words we use and the messages we send will not solve all of the political, structural, and social issues around mental health, but using more accurate, sensitive, sensitive was the word I was looking for earlier, person-centered language to discuss mental health, mental illness, care, recovery, and framing. Ito naman sa part ng ng media and journalist, mental health issues in a more positive, accurate light can make a difference. So, ang ganda ng sinabi niya. So, I would recommend if you're interested in this space to read this white paper. And so just to bring it all together, this talk on mindfulness, mental health, and the media and communication. So mindfulness is our protective factor, against the negative effects of media and communication, such as social media anxiety, fatigue, anxiety and depression. And then by increasing our self-awareness and emotional regulation, it can help us manage the pressures of, and of course, lahat tayo, we have Facebook accounts, we have so many accounts online, no? Sino ba sa inyo dito yung may accounts on all platforms? No, the pressures of online self-presentation, filtering our information overload, reducing the emotional toll of social media and the polarized media landscape. And of course, for media practitioners, communication scholars, no, academic students, even if you're not in the academe, no, it encourages mindfulness encourages a more thoughtful content creation, whatever we post, no, and more discerning information consumption. Okay. So I think I'll end here. I'll end with this quote from Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. That in that space is our power to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and our freedom. This space is where you can practice mindfulness. So thank you. That ends my presentation. Thank you so much for your time. Mas mahaba ito kaysa kay Sir Francis. So thank you for staying. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Assistant Professor Bacaling-Cabag. And this is a great reminder to center ourselves as we tend to lose ourselves in the fast and changing paces of life and of our pursuit of external validation. So, there. So I know our audience members have a handful of burning questions. So we now open the floor for questions and reflections. But let's have a disclaimer that the views and opinions expressed in this panel are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Okay.
Thank you, Sir Kap.
So,
Now,
ayan.
now ko lang nakikita yung mga sagot niyo sa chat. Full lahat. Full with double L. Mindful.
And so for our Zoom participants, again, you may send your questions directly to our chat box or may send it to our PACMRI members. Ayan. So I think dahil nahihiya po sila, let me ask first this one question, no. I think you were able to tap it naman, but what habits do people have access to that they are not aware of to have that so-called media mindfulness or to be mindful in social media?
I think thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Sir Kyle, for that question. I think it's really this, I mentioned earlier about automaticity. And when it comes to social media, it's really this, doom scrolling. It's a habit, right? Doom scrolling. And if na-mention ko ba, di ko yata na-share earlier, there's an antidote to it. Yung doom scrolling na to. Yes, it's mindfulness, but there's a habit that you can replace it with, and this is called bloom scrolling. Yung bloom scrolling naman is being mindful and thoughtful in what you are looking at on social media, no? So if you take a moment now, for example, to reflect on sino ba mga fina-follow mo, ano bang usually yung mga posts na nilalike mo or that you comment on, no? Are they usually, ano ba, negative ba sila or what, no? So maybe it can, and sometimes we wonder, no? People wonder at the end of the day, but why do I feel extra tired? Kahit, you didn't really do much, no? But a lot of people are not aware of that impact, no? Of doom scrolling, just doing that all the time. I'm also guilty of that, but because nga, no, the practice of mindfulness really helps. Um, you will have to really rethink how you engage with social media, with all these platforms, and how much time you spend on them, on it. No? It's a double-edged sword din kasi eh. So there are also benefits like you can laugh, you get entertained, di ba? You would watch funny videos, cute baby, dog, cat videos, mga ganon. But on the other hand, so it makes you feel good, di ba? It makes you happy, it makes you laugh, and we need to laugh every day. But on the other hand, if puro mabibigat yung ano, can you just imagine the impact of that on your mental, I mean the kind of the mental and emotional toll, no, on you, on us. if this is the kind of content that we always engage with. So being mindful is really, looking at it in a way na you're very conscious of its impact on your physical health and your mental health, of course. Yeah.
Okay. I guess it has something to do also with how we try to train our algorithm. Also, I think that's one thing in terms of the scrolling, because I think yun yung pinupunto ni Miss Jaja dito na I think one way for us to really battle that doom scrolling is to also train our algorithm.
Mm.
So, thank you for that. Okay, so we have a question here from Miss Lourdes Renara. So, as a mental
Sure.
health expert, what could have been done to prevent suicidal tendency, as in the case of Kim Atienza's daughter? So,
Naku. Sis Lou, thank you for your question. Grabe naman ang question ni sister. um, sister, wag mo naman akong tawaging mental health expert ha. I'm not a medical ano ha. It's just an area of interest, and although I've done research on this area, no, but anyway, so what could have been done to prevent suicidal tendency? Nako. Um, Sister, is this you mean on the part of Kim or the people she engaged with? Kasi when it comes to iba-iba din kasi yung with looking at the stories of uh people who battled, especially the younger ones, no, who battled with suicidal thoughts. Parang I've noticed na yung common talaga sa kanila is their engagements on social media and their family situations. So you look at the relationship there, no? What's happening in the family? Do they feel safe? Do they feel supported? And then so there's somehow in many cases there's a pattern kasi if they don't feel that, they turn to social media. That's where they look for support and trying to look for, safe spaces, validation, things like that. So what could have been done to prevent? Ah, I am. It's so difficult to answer because I don't really know her background, no. But I feel like if she had maybe more support in terms of, I mean, having her family around and her friends around. I know she had a lot of friends, but how many real friends do you really have? 'Di ba? I mean, and then you look at halimbawa, in the case of celebrities, for example, I mean, you have millions of followers, thousands of followers, but how many of these people are really your friends? Who can be there for you, who can spot a problem right away and ask you how you are and if you need help, no? So ang daming there's so many factors here. Both person battling with okay. Okay. So well, when my friends and I talk about these things, we always blame social media. To be honest with you. Um that's not fair, but kasi yun yung common sa kanila eh. That's the common talaga sa kanila, and I wish that, and in families, it starts there eh. Um, your relationships with your parents, your siblings, your friends, and then there's your other life in work. No, so they all contribute to your mental state. They all contribute. So we can't really pinpoint, no, the exact cause, no. Nag-share si Allison. Media had a frenzy sa coverage nito, and for people like us who can be triggered, it was not a great moment to be online. Yes, and to be watching the news. Content creators milk the hell out of it, that's true. And media kept covering it in ways that were triggering. Tama naman. No, and um, I forgot to mention na meron ngayon, but they're talking about this more in yoga spaces, no? There's what we call trauma-informed teaching. Trauma-informed teaching. So a lot of people with mental health conditions or mental health illness na diagnosed talaga ha. So a lot of things can be triggering. So it can bring back the trauma of whatever, no? So and when you look at social media and the news, no, it brings back, all these unsavory feelings and emotions, and you might fall into a spiral again, no? So, grabe ang daming dapat pag-usapan on this alone, no? So, but this is true, no? And I appreciate Allison, no? Na this milking part, no? Kasi media and ano tayo dito, milking the hell out of it, no? Triggering talaga siya. Kasi if you're someone who's also undergoing something and you see that and you hear about what happened to her, 'di ba? Can you imagine, I mean, the kind of emotions that are stewing, no? Um, on those who are feeling the same way, no? So, yes. So, sister, I think it's really, that we really need to work on the quality of our relationships, if you ask me. I think Harvard did a longitudinal study on, what was that? I can't seem to remember the exact ano. But their results show that, how what is the main determinant of the longevity of people's lives, no? Ano siya? Meaningful relationships. Meaningful relationships. And with the youth, maybe you have students who are close to you, no? Alam natin ng mga stories na ganito. They always turn to social media when they don't have support. No? So support is really important. The relationships, the kind of relationships we have at home are really important. Wag natin iwanan sa social media mga bata, no? And that's a huge role for us din, no, na teachers, professors, no? So ang dami, di pa nga natin napag-usapan yung mental health in the workplace, eh. No? So how do you, and I think for leaders, for example, you hold an administrative position, or so anyone who holds a leadership position, I think also has a huge responsibility when it comes to this, and to be trained on spotting signs of mental health problems or distress. No, in you shared earlier, Sir Kyle, no, na I'm currently under the mentorship of Dr. Lauren Tober, is an Australian clinical psychologist. She's also a yoga teacher. Um, when she came up with the mental health aware yoga program, it was because um, studies showed that people who are going to her classes and in other yoga centers there were going there for their mental health. Secondary na lang yung physical benefits, yung balance, flexibility, coordination, things like that. They were going to these classes for their mental health. And so that's why that program was born. And so I joined the program, and then she asked me to do some other work for her na comm related, because she knows I'm a comm major. So that's how we came together. And then now she's also working on itong training the teachers, no? Trauma-informed. Ito na nga siya. Trauma-informed teaching. Like, she would ask us, for example, And I ask you now, no, those of you who are professors here, can you tell in your class, in a class of what, 20 perhaps, no? Can you tell who among them, unless na may nagsabi sa'yo directly, nag-share privately sa'yo, no? How does a mental health problem, excuse me, manifest in your class? In a yoga class, merong signs, no? Merong signs. There are particular habits, bodily postures, even in the speech of students who come to class that are signs, no, that they could be undergoing depression or anxiety, no, mga ganun. So, yeah, so there's a lot to learn, no. Um, Sorry, I've been drawing on and on. Do you have other questions?
Okay, according to Allison, so thank you for acknowledging Z and truly agree with all the points you've raised in your talk on what needs to be done. I mean, even the dropping or the use of the S word, even if you mean
Yes.
well, can have impacts on different people. Since you've asked us kanina kung anong practice to regulate, I usually refer to Dr. Sandra Dalton
Mhm.
Smith in Seven Types of Rest.
Yeah.
Karaniwan walang attribution sa kanya sa content about this. I also do nervous system regulation
Oh, I love
meditation,
that.
somatic exercises, and many grounding moments. Ayan. And I
Oh,
think
thank you,
uh,
Alison.
it's very
Thank you
vital
for
na
sharing.
susukat ko po yung part na sinasabi ninyo because currently I'm practicing, well, I think mindfulness, part of mindfulness in my classroom is safe spaces. So I
Right.
think it's really vital that in terms of how we coordinate, we interact with our students, we establish that safe space. And I think that's one level for us to achieve that mindfulness in the classroom setting. So I think that's something that I can share directly. Ayan.
Thank you, Sir Kyle. And thank you, Alison. I'm so happy to know that you're practicing these things, no? And they're very helpful. I'm sure you can testify, you know, that these are very helpful practices. But like I said earlier, no, you don't have to, because I mean, in my own friends, no, you don't have to really sit on the floor and close your eyes and meditate and things like that. No? So practice, at your own pace, whatever works for you. Find what feels good for you, whatever works, no. And when you continue to do this, no, you will reap the benefits, no. So I always call them the gifts of mindfulness, no? And you see them in action in your life, no, and in my own personal life, in my own experience, no. I can't tell you how many times I've benefited from, really pausing, instead of reacting right away when I used to be like that, no. So yun, I hope that whatever you learned here today, whether you're new to mindfulness or you've been practicing it for quite some time, no. So let's just continue that, padayon lang. And hopefully we can, not just help ourselves, we help others, and we embody, mindfulness, no. Yung teacher ko kanina sa picture, teacher Eileen, to me she's the embodiment really of mindfulness. And to the point na when I'm in difficult situations sometimes where I need to make difficult decisions or what, iniisip ko, no, what would teacher Eileen do? 'Di ba? And it's also important to find models, no? To look up to and to remind us, no, to stay grounded, to center ourselves, and so yun, that's they have very important roles to play in our lives. They are important, no? When you find people like this, no, keep them close. Yeah. So
Thank you so much.
thank you so much.
And finally, to wrap it up, I think a lot of people are also commending, and also Dr. Baldo Cobello here shared that her go-to is the mindful gardener teaching
Oh,
about allowing Dr. Irene Leon somatic intelligence. I think because a lot of
yeah.
people are recommending this, so why not search for it? and let's try to have this kind of mindfulness session.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doc Julian.
And thank you so much po.
I'm happy to see Doc Julian here. And also I think I have a former student here. Ria, hello.
And that wraps up our open forum session. So thank you once again to our speakers and of course to Miss Bacaling-Cabag. So and participants for such a rich engagement and exchange of ideas. So at this point, we take the time to recognize the invaluable contributions of our resource person. So PACMRI proudly awards this certificate of appreciation to our distinguished speaker. So here is your certificate po. Ayan, so let me read. So the Philippine Association of Communication and Media Research Incorporated awards this Certificate of Appreciation to Jaja Bakaling-Cabag. So in recognition of their valuable time and expertise as research speaker for the masterclass titled Media and Mindfulness, Underscoring Ethics and Centering Mental Well-Being in a Polarized Media Landscape. This live event is held online and is part of the PACMRI 2025 Masterclass series given this 21st day of November 2025. Ayan po. So, stay ka lang po dyan, Miss, para po
Thank
sa
you.
paper. Ayan. And we are deeply grateful for your time, effort, and expertise shared to us today. So, I think that's it po. To close our program, I now call on Assistant Professor Noel Sajid Murad, the PACMRI Director for Research, for his closing remarks.
Hello. Reading tobacco, Kyle, am I coming in clear?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much to our dear speakers for graciously accepting our invitation for this special PACMRI Masterclass by the Iloilo Media Citizen Council and the West Visayas State University. As we wrap up today's masterclass, I'd like to take a moment to appreciate the depth and urgency of the conversations we've had. In a time when our information ecosystem feels increasingly fragmented and at times overwhelmingly frustrating, today's discussions remind us that media work is not just a technical craft but a human responsibility. Sir Francis grounded us with his talk, highlighting how truth telling is becoming more complex, yet more necessary than ever. He challenged us to think critically about how journalists, media practitioners, and researchers navigate online misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation accelerated by AI, and how integrity remains our most powerful tool amidst platform and algorithm gatekeepers. Prof. Zasa, in her session, offered an equally important reminder that the people behind the newsrooms, classrooms, research labs, and other spaces matter just as much as the work that they produce. She encouraged us to bring self compassion, presence, kindness, and mental well being into the center of communication research and practice. So we need to change the national conversation on mindfulness and frame mental health stories responsibly and with more sensitivity. So, taken together, both these talks highlight a crucial truth that ethical communication and mindful communication are not separate paths. They are parallel commitments that allow us, media citizens, to work with clarity, empathy, and accountability within meaningful relationships with one another. So thank you once again to our amazing speakers from the Visayas region. Thank you so much, Z, for helping put up this amazing masterclass. Thank you also to
Welcome.
Kyle for helping host and moderate the session. We were able to have very honest and mindful and demure discussion. So thank you all for your questions and for your comments. Allison, thank you so much. Doc Julian as well, no? I'd like to take this opportunity now to acknowledge our institutional partners who are present with us today. So Kyle, if you could like just flash the slide. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. There are a couple of representatives from each of our current institutional members. Of course, we hope to see our tribe increase. And so we're asking everyone, if you were inspired by the areas of future research on media and ethics and mindfulness by Sir Francis and Z, we hope you can consider joining PACMRI and take this journey with us of developing a community of communication and media scholars studying the Philippines and the Filipinos. We have two more masterclass sessions in store for you, so please do follow and like our Facebook page to stay updated. Our next masterclass will be on November 28th. This is our rescheduled masterclass with our friends and institutional partners from Ateneo de Cagayan, Xavier University, on development communication. So on behalf of PACMRI, thank you once again for spending your afternoon with us. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat ng pagdayon. Thank you.